Hi, good afternoon. I'm Rupal Thanawala, and you are in the She Has a Seat at the Table panel. I'm here joined by my colleagues, friends, and peers, Andrea Bartlett of BC Forward, Meredith Harper from Eli Lilly and Company, and Tatiana Holifield from Pacers Sports and Entertainment. These women are executives and movers and shakers in their industry. However, it didn't happen overnight. It wasn't an easy journey, nor anybody handed them their position. They worked hard on it, and they proved everyone wrong who probably didn't believe in first place, but then they have made it. These are my role models and sheroes. So I'm so excited to lead the session along with this bright, talented, and amazing women. So the way we are going to run this panel is I'll ask all the three panelists to first introduce themselves, and then we'll get into this interactive conversation. And if you all have any questions, please keep on sending it on the chat box. We'll be keeping track of it. So without further ado, Andrea, why don't you go first? Introduce yourself.
Thank you, Rupal. And hello, everyone. My name is Andrea Bartlett. I'm the Vice President of BC Forward Digital Business, and I'm also responsible for our new ventures and business development as well. So very happy to be here with you guys today.
Meredith, you can go first. Next.
Okay. All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Meredith Harper. I'm the Vice President and Chief Information Security Officer for Eli Lilly and Company. I've been with the company for 2 years, so I'm relatively new in the organization and in the role. New to Indiana, so I have just moved here 2 years ago as well. Prior to that, I've been in health IT in various capacities for probably the last 26 to 27 years. Everything from program, project management, application development, all the way into the worlds of privacy, security, risk, compliance, and audit. So have had fun doing all of that, and now have the opportunity to lead the global information security program for Eli Lilly. It's been amazing so far. Thank you for having me.
Tatiana? Tatiana, we can't hear you.
Okay, let's try that again. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tatiana Holifield Arthur. I am the Vice President of Digital Strategy for Pacers Sports and Entertainment. Thank you first and foremost for having me on today. My role is to oversee all of the digital and social media properties for all of our sports entities and the Bankers Life Fieldhouse. So that includes the Pacers, the Fever, the Mad Ants, and Pacers Gaming, our G League division. Prior to, like Meredith, I moved to Indy 2 years ago almost, and I lived in New York prior, where I worked in the television industry doing sales and social media and marketing.
Awesome, thank you very much. So this particular panel is very relatable to me and probably many of my friends who are actually on our joined in this session. And number one question that comes to all of our mind is, we are having this session which just says she has a seat at the table, which is really not that common to see. So first of all, I want to acknowledge that you women are dynamic and you have really earned your place. But that is not true for so many of others. And again, as I said, it didn't come easy. So can you just share with us, what were the trials and triumphs you had? What was the journey like? So anyone can start, and I want to hear from all three of you on that.
I'll go ahead and start. My journey really started in the telecommunications space. I worked for a Fortune 500 company, and really felt that there was not a place for people like me. So a lot of the times in meetings and in on sessions with either colleagues or work groups, there were no women. There were barely any women in telecommunications, first of all, and then secondly, people of color were just very hard to come by. I've always been in the either product management, project management, strategy, or strategic execution space most of my life. So I decided after there was a large merger, hey, why don't I try a different industry, right? If I go to a different industry, maybe things will be, there'll be a little more diversity there. So went into the real estate industry, kind of the same thing, kind of played the role of, I was VP of IT at one of the big real estate companies, but again, still did not see that diversity. So I would say what was pivotal for me is I decided, hey, why don't I jump out of Fortune 500 and let me look at smaller companies. And I would say the best decision I ever made was to move to a company that not only had diversity, but is owned and founded by a Black founder. BC Forward's founder is Justin Christian. It made a complete difference in my opportunity and just the colleagues that I work with and the customers that I work with as well.
Amazing story. I think I can go next for that. The journey has been one that has been a long journey. It started, again, 26, 27 years ago out of college, entered into more of a tech role, doing application development, database design, and things of that nature, but found out very quickly that I was a little bit different than most of the technical staff that was there. I had the ability to function not only in the technical spaces, but also interpreting business problems and really trying to tie those two together. So I moved really quickly out of the technical space, more so into program project management and things of that nature, and did that for like a 10-year period. I think one of the things that was the best decision I could have ever made, not knowing that it was a decision at all at the time, was I worked for a company that exclusively serviced healthcare. So it was an industry I didn't know a whole lot about. I was a technical person, and I was kind of immersed into this healthcare space, and found that it really did align to who I was as a person and my own professional, personal goals and the things that are important to me. So I stayed in it the entire time. I've never worked for another industry other than healthcare, but in different various capacities. I can say that one of the things that I found myself in along the way is that I was either the only one, the first or second one, the youngest one, all of these, the first of something. And so that, of course, was brought with its challenges. When I think about my first job out of college, I was the second African-American that this company had ever hired. And this was in the early 90s. So for us to be 92, 93, and we're just now hiring the second African-American, that was interesting to me. But I found myself, because I have kind of slanted to the sides of security and audit, risk, compliance, and things of that nature, that I typically am the only one in the room that looks like me, that has my skin tone, or in most instances are even a woman. And so that's been challenging throughout the years. I'm not going to lie about that, but you find ways to get over those things, and you find ways to also create teaching moments along the way when those who have not interacted with someone who looks like you understand what it means to interact with someone who looks like you. So I've had a lot of opportunity to do that over the years. And have tried to make this normal. It's normal for women to be in the space of security. It's normal for African Americans to be in security. This is not abnormal. So we've been trying to normalize this concept for years. And I'm hoping that for the next 25 years or so, we can start to not have to worry about normalizing it, that it will become normal as a part of our operations in our business. So yes, it's been a journey, but it's a journey that I would not have selected any other journey. I've learned a lot, not only about myself, but also about the world that we live in and how we can all make this better for all of us.
To add on to that, my journey has been a little bit different in that I've moved around in different cities and things like that. But it was really sparked by having great mentors for me. I was very blessed and still am to have an African-American male mentor who helped me along the way. He was pretty high up in the ranks within the cable industry. And since then, I met several other leaders of color. I have also been fortunate to work both at very large companies that have been primarily non-minority, and I have also worked at primarily Black companies. So I've seen both sides of the table, and I have had the opportunity to see what it looks like to be a Black person in leadership. And when I had that opportunity, I knew that there was nothing more that I wanted to be. So being a millennial, I really jumped on that opportunity to carve out a path for myself to make sure that I'm not the last in this journey that comes along. So as I've moved along the ranks, I've taken opportunities and found voids where there are holes to be able to plug myself in and become that triple threat, so to speak, right? Whereas I am knowledgeable about the industry that I work in, and I'm also rare in the industry that I work in. And so these are the opportunities that I've taken advantage of, and I have been a part of my passion personally is to continue to bring others up with me. I don't want to be the only, Black or brown face in the room. I want there to be more of us, and I want us to not just have a seat at the table, but to build that table, to own that table, and to build a house all around it, if that's what it's going to take.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. Yeah, we have to build those tables and the rooms for ourselves, right? And that's exactly the next question some young women asked, Often they don't have the courage to even ask for what they deserve or what they aspire to be, or often they've been just handed some jobs that probably they don't really, they're capable of more than that. So either some pivotal point in your journey or somewhere where you had to take some bold or courageous steps to even demand what you wanted to be or deserve. How did you do, or what advice do you have for them?
Yeah, I can probably start with that question. I had a really pivotal time in my career. I want to say I was probably in my mid-20s and leading teams. I've been leading teams since I was 23. So leading teams and all of that. And I found that at that stage of my career, I was being pulled in to clean up the problems that were being created by other project teams, but I wasn't being brought to the table when the actual solutioning was happening, when the strategy was being discussed. I wasn't in the room for those things. But when it all kind of went to pot, let's call Meredith and let her clean it up. So I found myself in this really unique space that I didn't care too much for. I don't want to be the cleanup woman. That's not my lot in life, is to clean up other people's messes. So if you want me to keep playing a pivotal role with this team, then you need to figure out how I can be in the room when the decisions are being made, because that's where you're going to get the most value from me. And it was really a tough conversation to have. I didn't know whether I was committing career suicide by having it, but I felt that so strongly about it that I could no longer function in this capacity. And I had some really good mentors that helped me craft what that message needed to be and how to deliver that message. They let me test it out on them before I actually went in the room and did it. So they really did help me figure out how to find my voice and all of that. Luckily, the company that I worked for understood where I was coming from and realized that the model that they had put in place really wasn't working, and that I needed to be more at the forefront of the process and not on the cleanup end. Because again, women are not just here to take notes. We're not just here to be the scribes. We're not just here to do the cleanup. We're here to strategize. We're here to design. We're here to figure out what the solution is going to be. And that's where you're going to get the value out of me. I was prepared, though, that if my company chose not to honor what I was requesting, I was prepared to walk away. Now, I don't encourage people to walk away without a plan, because that's not smart. But if you have to put something in place, that if you have to make a career move like this, and they say, you know what, Meredith, that's just not our vision for you, we only see you in this capacity, you need to have an exit plan that you can activate at any given time that you need to do it. So be smart about it when you have the conversation. But that was really important for me. And that really did change the trajectory of my career, actually, once I allowed myself to stand in the room and stand in my truth in terms of what I wanted to bring to the table.
If I can add on. Oh, I'm sorry, Andrea.
No, I was just gonna probably like you are, Meredith. I completely agree. The advice that I would give our listeners and participants today is all of us have an internal compass, right? You have a compass around what you are willing to put up with. You must understand your value. Right. So knowing yourself and understanding your value, and if you see yourself being discounted or left out, you have to intentionally speak up and let your management, your supervisor, your leadership know where you stand. Right. They will not read your mind. They do not know your perspective. And if you don't participate in that way, you are basically opting out, right? And I know it can be scary. I know it could be career limiting. To Meredith's point, have that group of mentors that are around you that can coach you through the situation at hand. It may not even be mentors at the job that you're at. It may be going back and talking with a professor who was really on your side when you were in school. It may be someone at your church that you feel comfortable with talking to, but you've got to have a support system around you, along with understanding your purpose, your value, so that you do not allow that to continue to happen. It'll kill your spirit if you see that that's happening to you, and especially if you see that happening to others around you. You have to speak up for them. But I'm sorry, Tatiana.
No, thank you. I was just going to add a pivotal time for me when I really woke up was when I moved from Atlanta to New York. I was interviewing for the role, and the company told me that they could only pay me a certain amount of money because it was the max that they had in their budget. It was their absolute max, and there was nothing more that they could offer. And I took the job. A little while after being in the job and being great at what I do, I met the person who happened to work in finance, who happened to be a person of color. And she, off to the side, told me that the white person who had the job before me was making $15,000 more. And it was at that point that I realized that that was not going to happen again in my career. I was going to make sure that I was educated about my worth, I knew my worth, and I stood on that. So I recommend everyone all the time when I'm mentoring people, read Mika Brzezinski's book called Know Your Value. Mika Brzezinski is on MSNBC. She wrote a book, about knowing her value as a woman versus, a man. But it is a very good book on learning how to really stand on your value. And to the point that Andrea and Meredith just brought up, you have to be willing to walk away if a company is not willing to pay you what you know you're worth. So that's the key takeaway that I would offer.
Yeah, and I appreciate you bringing up that topic, because Tatiana, I know I'm going to follow up with you on just the gender pay equity topic. Probably this is the whole different conversation, but very important, because often women are not good at negotiating that salary, or we have been not even offered that opportunity. So
exactly, that's a whole nother conversation. But
we are going to have that conversation. Absolutely, that needs to happen.
Yeah.
So can I add one more thing in before we go forward with the next question? I think that one of the tactics that I've used before throughout my career is when I'm in a situation like that, Tatiana, where I've had to look at the bigger picture because I'm playing the long game, right? So I'm looking at the bigger picture of what that company can offer me. And there have been times when I felt like they were coming in at a number that just didn't feel comfortable for me, but I'm trying to play the longer game. I've started a set of negotiations where we're talking about, okay, I'll do it at this rate, but in 6 months, here's what we're going to agree to in terms of deliverables. I'm going to have you guys put that in writing, that we will be reevaluating this in 6 months, and that we will be moving me closer and closer to what we think that number needs to be, and make them put it in writing. And I've actually gotten companies to do that. I have seen, just to be the difference between us and maybe our male counterparts, I've seen men do it, and I've seen them be able to get these companies to. So I said, well, why not I try it if they're not coming in at the numbers that I want? And I've had a couple of instances where that has happened, and they have actually upheld their written commitment, where I've been able to say, okay, this is what I produced for you in this 6 month, 8 month, 12-month period. Now we need to move that number to where it needs to be. And if they at that point choose not to do it, then that's when I say, okay, this is probably when I need to walk away. So that's another tactic that you can use as you're in a part of that initial negotiations if you're in a situation like that.
Yep, and I just double click on what you just said, Meredith. When you go to an interview, you need to know what the salary range is. You need to go to salary.com and other sites so that you can understand where you should fall within that range and what that company is normal, what your industry, what's market value for that industry. Don't go in not knowing that. Always look at that company's website, right? Look at their leadership team, like try to understand culturally what that company is about. Do they have people of color on their board or in their leadership? Do they have women? Right? Sometimes it's not even about the people of color. Hopefully there's some women in there on their leadership team. But be really clear about that industry and what your salary should look like, or your bill rate, depending on that.
Andrea, I just want to add to that too, in this day and age when diversity is a big spotlight for a lot of people, just know that hiring us comes with the premium. I'm just gonna be honest. You know what I mean? Like if you go to a company and you see that there is no diversity in their leadership board, that's even more of a reason for you to stand on your value and no, don't go into an opportunity being undervalued, because they need you. They need you to have that seat at the table.
Absolutely.
So my next question is, that's a great segue to my next question. So how do you turn the table? Like, yes, there is an opportunity, but then often the company culture or the unconscious biases of the leadership do not let you change the environment. And I think the onus is often on us. It shouldn't be, but the onus is on us to then educate and change help them change the environments. How do you do that?
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
There's a couple of ways, and I think as leaders we have a responsibility. I think, and you can hear just from the three of us today that we're very intentional about the fact that it's important to have diversity and it's important to have gender diversity as well. One of the things that I do when I'm in meetings, and you'll hear that word manterrupting, right? Because you'll get in those situations and there are women in the room or minorities in the room and their voice is not allowed to be heard, right? I will stop the meeting, and right, so maybe that's because of where I've ended up right now, but I will say, wait a minute, I think we need to go back and recircle and listen to what, right, this colleague had to say, because they will blow past it with that unconscious bias, right? And we also have to remember not everybody is intentionally trying to be, right, racist or sexist. So sometimes it's just such a an innate, it's so intuitive to them that they're not even realizing that they're doing it. So you have to bring that up and be intentional about allowing the other voices in the room to be heard. That's one of the things that I really think is important. The other thing is you need to mentor those that have not made it as a peer of yours, and you have to you give them special projects and things that will bring up their visibility in the organization. You have to do that on purpose, though, so that the leadership can see that these people of color have these great viewpoints, right? That they have this expertise that's needed for the entire organization. But again, you have to be intentional. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I think continuing to confront it. We can't be silent in this moment. Now, again, like I stated, after so many years of doing this, almost 30 years of doing this, I am kind of tired of having the same conversations about things in terms of women being in the workplace and what we bring and our value and things like that. But until, again, we can turn the tide, I cannot be silent about it, nor can I put myself in a position where I exit the stage. I've had this asked of me before, is that, Meredith, are you always tired of being the one on stage, the one that's always have to address the Black issues, the women issues, the other issues? And yes, it's tiresome. Let me just say that. But I have a responsibility, just like the women who came before me, the Black leaders who came before me, they did not grow tired. They created a better opportunity and an experience for me. I have to do the same thing. I don't have the luxury to get off the stage. So continue to confront those things. I think it's all of our responsibilities. And I think being very vocal and clear about what your intents are when you're coming into organizations. So when I think about my interest into Lilly, one of the conversations that I have with my executives is that understand that when I move into these spaces, I move and I bring people who look like me. So if there's a concern that I'm bringing people who look like me, we need to talk about that now, because it's going to happen. And people are going to gravitate towards me because I'm a woman. Women are going to gravitate. I'm Black. Black women are going to gravitate. Black people are going to gravitate. People of color are going to gravitate. Be okay with that. And if they're not, you need to tell me that up front. Again, have I always had that ability to declare those things? No. But I think that as you grow in your responsibilities in your career, you now have to pick those things up. What is going to be a part of your brand, and how are you going to keep this conversation moving? I've had to do that. And so I will continue to confront those things. I think the other part is, though tiring at times, I have to also create safe spaces for others who don't look like me to ask the questions that nobody else will answer for them. Because if they never feel safe enough to say, Meredith, well, I have a question about this, and it's something that I talk about with my friends and my family, but I don't know a Black person to even have this conversation with, I give them the license to say, let's have the conversation. Let me enlighten you on whatever it is that you want to be enlightened about. And to be honest, it could be something that's similar. I've had conversations with my team. I've had conversations with some of my leadership simply about Black hair. We've had conversations about these things and how this is a challenge sometimes for us moving into these corporate spaces where we look different, we present different, we bring different things to the table, right? So, but I give a safe space for that. Let's talk about it. Let that not be a barrier for you if it's been a barrier. Let's break down those walls. So I think, yes, being responsible, making sure that we're having the conversations, but also creating those safe spaces where people can start to change their mindset about how they've been conditioned as it relates to other people.
Wow, that's good. Tatiana, what's your take on that?
I have to totally agree with Meredith. I did the same coming into my role now in terms of establishing up front what the parameters were for me walking in the door, meaning I was going to focus on diversity. I was going to make sure that we can have these type of conversations and that I'm not the only Black leader of color or female or whatever the case may be. So being able to establish those boundaries up front is totally important. But I see there's a question in the Q&A around, your work ethic when you're not allowed to be the face of the brand. And this kind of goes into that question. If you're already in your role, it's probably harder for you to establish those boundaries than someone just walking in the door, right? So what I would recommend is finding those allies that are in positions of power that can help you devise a strategy on how you're going to best achieve that and get the support that you need to raise the flags that you need. And then also to bring in more people of color or more women or, whatever the case may be that you're trying to accomplish in terms of inclusivity. But at the end of the day, it goes back to, again, knowing your worth. And if you just feel like no one at your company is supporting you and that they're not allowing you to be the face, then you might need to take a hard look at, is that really the right company for you? If that's something that is truly a part of your personal mission and values, you need to make sure that that company values align with your personal values.
And I totally agree with you all, because I was a partner in a firm where it was all 13 white males and I was the only partner. And I had to absolutely make that decision. I tried to change the culture. I could not move the needle, and that at that point I had to make a decision. This is not the place for me. However, there are individuals who are asking probably, and I don't want to answer that question why and what I did. I want to hear from all of three of you that how do you create those allies when you do not get that support? And often it may happen from other diverse people also. So how do you build that allyship in your network? And when you are in the room and you are not being heard, you are invisible. How do you do that? How do you manage it?
I'll double click on something Meredith said, which we really have to reiterate, is breaking those walls down to build that trust. People have to be able to, especially people that don't look like you, have to be able to feel open and in a safe space that they can have those open conversations with you. And that's how you start to at least form the allyship from there.
Yep, and it's also looking for those in the organization that you align with from a value standpoint, and again, it goes back to what Tatiana said, if there is a trust that you can start to have with some of the folks in your organization, then you can start to have deeper conversations around, hey, I feel like I'm marginalized in this meeting, or hey, I noticed that there's no other people of color in this meeting, and I'd really like for you to have a one-on-one with this person, because I think that you two would also align, and there would be a great relationship that could happen there as well. I do think that not everyone that's in these meetings or in the organization are going to have their thumb on you the entire time. That's just not going to happen. I do think, though, that you have to have the discernment to see that there are those diamonds out there. They may be in the rough, right? Those diamonds in the rough that maybe they just need your help with how do I broach these conversations? How do I broach these topics and help me to be more aware? And there's a lot of organizations that you can join where people are really focused on, hey, we want to bring people of color to the table and show us how. So there's a lot of opportunity by joining organizations that really have that focus.
I think one of the things that I could add to that is we sometimes limit ourselves to just our span of control or our experience. I think allyship is much bigger than just the department and the team that you work on. I think there's times that you have to look at, especially if you work for a company like Lilly that's heavily relationship based, you have relationships across the organization. It might not just be in information security. It might not just be in IT. It might be in someplace else where that ally can assist you with relationships that they've built with folks that you may have to have advocating for you. So I think that, don't try to limit yourself. I know I did that initially within my career. I was only looking for allies and mentors and sponsors and advocates within the IT space, not understanding that there was value in this other set of leadership and other set of individuals that could help me and assist me with those opportunities to find my voice in the room in different ways, depending on what that situation was. So don't limit yourself just to your circle. Try to push yourself past that if you could. One of the other things that I did, which I thought was interesting, is about the whole networking piece. I think that networking is an art. I think that also obtaining a mentor is an art that I don't think we teach enough to people about how to actually do it. Some people might not be like myself. Well, I'll just walk in a room and say, hey, I need a mentor. Will you do it? And here's what I want out of this situation. Everybody might not be like that. So how do we provide those opportunities to make us more comfortable in approaching someone to say, here's what I want to learn from you, or here's how I need you to help me? That networking, mentoring, connecting to people, it's hard for some folks. How do we make that easier for them? I think we have a responsibility as leaders to teach that to people.
Absolutely. And I am just checking the chat box and people are asking that question, are you all willing to groom ladies for your positions? And I guess one question I can answer one thing is, that connection on a LinkedIn is great, but be purposeful. What are you giving in also? And at any level, you can still add value to that relationship. Mm-hmm. So, but then is it fair to say that, you all are open to mentoring young women?
Absolutely.
That's fair.
In this panel. And of course, I'm just answering the question on behalf of all of you. But my next question is going to be that this has been not just a journey, but a struggle for many years, all of us, particularly to get into the C-suite. And still the needle has not moved as much as the outcomes are not there yet. Like it's such a common phrase that, there are more men by name James than, women of color in the leadership, in the Fortune 500 companies. So I guess as much as we are putting in effort, we are being intentional. There are lots of programs internally in a lot of corporations, but still the needle has not moved. I've been very much involved with some of the STEM programs happening in the community. Women are still not getting, I'm saying young girls are not getting that many even opportunity and the encouragement, even to consider STEM careers. So we are like talking about, like miles away from, where you are. So what are we missing and what do we need to do really as a community as a whole?
I think we're waiting too late. For STEM careers, specifically around STEM careers, and I think about the work that I've done with young girls, whether it's elementary school, middle school, high school. We try to get to people when they're almost ready to go to college, and that's when we start these internship programs and things of that nature. That's way too late to expose young girls to this. It is a known fact that we socialize girls differently than we do boys. And even if you look at some of the studies that have been out there from organizations that I've been a part of, if you don't touch a young girl by the time she's in the 5th grade to expose her to a STEM career, 9 times out of 10, she will never select a STEM career. And it's just because of the way we socialize. So I've said this story and given this analogy to people before. What do we do with our boys when they fall off the skateboard or they fall off the bike and they start to cry? And what is the first thing that we say? Suck it up. You're a boy. You're stronger. Get back on the bike. Keep moving. Now the girl does the exact same thing and she falls off and she starts crying. What do we say? Oh, sweetie, come here. Give me a hug. It'll be okay. We don't give that same level of encouragement at times to girls to say, yes, it's going to be hard. Yes, it's going to be difficult. You may fail. You may cry about it. We've all done all of those things, but guess what? You can still do this. So you're going to get back up on the horse. You're going to keep trying to move forward. You're going to keep learning these things. So the socialization has to begin long before this kid is about to go to college. And I think that there are some groups, I know in my Michigan market when I lived there, that offered those opportunities to young girls at an earlier age, whether it was through STEM-focused camps that we did throughout the year. They would get corporations to sponsor these camps. We would have tech competitions. We would be designing and coding applications. We would be doing all kinds of things to keep them engaged at an early age. So to me, I think we just wait too late. We're too late in the cycle to get that spark going with these young kids to keep them engaged long term.
And I also think just kind of to continue to pull on that, Meredith, a lot of our younger people don't see themselves, right? So they're not seeing role models that look like them, right? So you'll get folks that feel that you lose your authenticity, right? If you in those types of roles, in the STEM role, because you don't see yourself. So it's like, so can I still be me, or do I have to be someone else, right, in order to take that path? Because I'm not seeing a lot of others that look like me in that pathway, right? So there's so much around being able to see role models that are doing what you're doing or what you may aspire to do. And they need to see them, Meredith, like you said, very, very early, right? That they need to see early in life that it is okay if I want to be an engineer as a Black female, that is okay. And that is something that is open to me, right? It's not something that's some unicorn that happens, that being an engineer or being a mathlete, as I call it, is an okay thing to be. But again, our education system isn't doing anything to really harbor that for our young people, and we don't have a lot of diverse teachers in STEM. We don't have a lot of diverse professors in STEM. So it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy of just, I don't see myself, so really is this something I should be doing? So.
And when I came here, there was the opportunity for me to select what boards I wanted to be a part of. And one of the boards that was an opportunity for me was to be on the board of the Children's Museum. And I don't have kids, so my initial reaction was, why would I do that? But then when I took a step back and I thought about it, I signed up and I said, absolutely. Because you know what? Little Black and brown children need to be able to see us in these opportunities, number one. But number two, I looked at what's the opportunity that I can get in with the leadership at the Children's Museum and talk about what are the long-term exhibits or activations that we can create around technology or STEM or digital or social. Can we partner with a Facebook or Instagram to teach people about coding or the back end or all of that? Because we all know that in this day and age, you walk into McDonald's and there's a kiosk, right? So the opportunities for especially young kids of color without education or without a lot of income will be very limited. So exactly what Meredith is saying, we need to start early. And if we as leaders and professionals of color in this industry can start to look for more opportunities like that, where we can touch the younger generation early on and get them on board and make them see that their only opportunities are not just to be an athlete or just to be, a rapper or whatever. And listen, at Pacer Sports and Entertainment, I see it all the time. I walk the hallways and the first thing they say, oh, you must be a cheerleader or you must be a WNBA player. They never think, oh, you must be an executive. So we have to continue to push that envelope and start early to get kids the understanding that they can achieve it too.
Yeah, Bring Your Child to Work Day is the best thing that we could have ever come up with. I think that we need to leverage those more. I am very fortunate that at Lilly, it's a pretty robust program in terms of bringing your child to work. And in information security over the last several years, we've been able to do some focus sessions for the kids just in the IS arena, just to get them exposed to these things. And it's been very popular over the last few years. And they've gotten a chance to see our CIDO, who is actually our CIO, but she does digital as well. She's a woman. My predecessor was the first CISO for Lilly. She was a woman. You get to me, I'm a woman. I mean, we're all minorities. All three of us were minorities. So there was this exposure to these kids just by attending the going to work with your parent kind of thing. So if your company offers that, if there's an opportunity for you to be able to bring these kids into the workplace and let them experience what's going on firsthand, that's another way that we can expose them. So leverage those things that are already there. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. Those things are kind of already there. Let's harness them.
Awesome. Now we have just 3 minutes left and I've got lots of questions. However, we being the last session, we have a little bit of a liberty to go over, which I would absolutely use that opportunities. But there's one question that is coming up by a lot of young girls, professionals saying that, how can you ask for help when you are a young professional? And then even building that mentorship through LinkedIn or any other networking opportunities.
Just ask. So we don't have sometimes because we don't ask. So we have to be bold enough to be able to just ask. Truthfully, I leverage LinkedIn for all types of things, but a lot of my mentoring engagements actually come through LinkedIn. And a lot of those instances, I don't know these people at all. It's just they've looked at my career, they've seen what I've done, they have aspirations in these areas, and they will just shoot me a simple message to say, Meredith, listen, I see your experience. This is something I'm interested in. Can you spend a few minutes with me? They're not asking for a 12-year commitment, but can you spend a few minutes with me just to kind of hear what I'm thinking about as it relates to cyber? I take every single one of those requests. I don't turn people down for those things because, again, they're seeking assistance and we have a responsibility to open those doors for them. Some of them have turned into more longer term mentoring situations, and some of them have not. It's just been, I want to bounce this off of you as someone in this space and just get your thoughts about it. And then some I've built a long-standing mentoring relationship with. So the basic for me is just ask. It can't hurt anything. Truthfully, the worst thing I could say is no. I mean, I could say yes. So just ask.
Mm-hmm. Any other word of wisdom from anyone?
I would love to add on that. I get approached by a ton of people on LinkedIn, just like Meredith, I respond to every single one. I may be slow to respond.
Yes, because I get a lot.
I will respond. Trust me, my inbox is overloaded, but I will respond. And here's the thing. This is the one takeaway I want some young people to know that are reaching out is one, when we do have a seat at this table, we get pulled in a million directions. We are women, we are mothers, we are sisters, we are wives, we are everything to everyone, which we're not complaining about. But we also want to give back. But it also we have to balance our lives and our personal selves too. So sometimes it's just that we need you to be a little bit more flexible, either with timing or perhaps you find the right opportunity to reach out in terms of, hey, whenever you have a quick 15 minutes or, can I catch you one day when you're on your coffee break? Tell me when that time is and I'll just take your coffee time. Or, hey, if you want to work out, buddy, if you work out, can I take a morning walk with you on your workout and use that time wisely? Things like that, where you can find those opportunities to network with people. And in terms of mentorship, I think some people just instantly will reach out on LinkedIn and say, can you be my mentor? And listen, you have to establish a relationship in order to have a mentorship. And the vibe has to be mutual on both sides, right? So I want to be a mentor, but I also want some very, some great people who are going to keep me up to speed on things that are going on too, right? So I want it to be a reciprocal relationship. So not everyone will be your mentor. But you can use people for certain things, and I don't mean that use them in that literal way, but you know what I mean? Like each person can offer a certain thing to you in your career in terms of how you leverage the relationship that you have with them. So continue to know that your mentorship can be anyone. Your mentorship, I see Danisha in the comments. Danisha is my mentor too, and we're peers, you know what I mean? So your mentor can be a peer. Your mentor can be a former boss. Your mentor can be someone inside your company or outside your company. But that mentorship takes a little time. So going back to, what Meredith said, start with just reaching out on LinkedIn, being flexible with your time and following up and being persistent. And also being respectful of our time too when you do reach out. I expect if you've come to me reaching out, wanting advice, that you come prepared, that you have your questions ready to go, that you want to ask me, I really don't like talking about myself the whole time. I'd rather learn about you and have some tangible conversations around how I can help you. Things like that. So that's what I offer to those who are looking to connect with other women or even just offering to get a mentor.
Yeah, and actually, I would add one more thing because mentorship is something so dear and near to my heart. And I say, I also respect reverse mentorship, because I learn a lot from young people, because that is the one way of me even understanding, what are your challenges. And, so let's make it a two-way street. So I
Yeah.
think we are
Yeah,
on.
well, I would also
Just
say
please go ahead.
I get a lot of, I use LinkedIn constantly, and I will tell you over the last 18 months, I've probably hired 4 people who have reached out to me. Just LinkedIn, let's start having a conversation, and absolutely, I can name you 4 people that I have hired because of LinkedIn. So yes, I am open to those LinkedIn contacts, and some of those are also end up, like I said, employees and mentees of mine. So
Awesome. No, that's great. I really don't want to close this conversation because this is so enlightening. I'm learning so much. But those who are actually on a chat box, now these women are ready to mentor, connect with you on LinkedIn. Of course, I heard be respectful, be patient, obviously. But then, we are all there to build the network. This is the purpose of this conference. We want to create more opportunities for minority business and professionals. So this is pretty much our end of all the panels and fireside chat for the day. We are going to stay on the same session, but now we are going to transition into our Shining Stars award ceremony. So there are 12 individuals who are receiving Golden Laurel Shining Star Awards today. So we're going to roll on to that. And right after that, at 4 o'clock, there's going to be a networking session. So that's pretty much individuals who have been throughout the day can jump back on this webinar and network with each other. I know there were some delays and some drags in the playing videos in the morning, but hopefully we have gone through this whole situation. Who knew that we will be having a conference in the first week of e-learning kicking off in the entire nation, and there will be so many challenges with the Wi-Fi and the Zoom webinars happening this week. So this is really we had planned for it, but this was unpredictable. So thank you very much for everyone who has stayed with us today, and thank you very much, Andrea, Tatiana, and Meredith, for such a great conversation. We will have these conversations going on because this conference is just a conversation starter, and we plan to have this kind of conversations throughout the year. So please stay engaged with us.